Nothing Personal starts in 30 seconds. It's just business. This is Nothing Personal.
Here you go.
Wait. That's the Nothing Personal word of the day, not W-A-I-T, W-E-I-G-H-T. As in the public musings of Jerry Jones hold no weight to Dak Prescott. Let's set the stage for this awesome way to start a Friday morning. We are August 30th, the final, the second 4869. Let's try that one more time. Wait, that's the Nothing Personal word of the day on Friday, August 30th, 2024, the second to last day of August. Happy birthday to Beth McConville, my multi-decade assistant. Without her, I wouldn't even be able to sit in this chair at 8 a.m. Eastern on the Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel. So happy birthday. Have a great day. Went through all sorts of possibilities for this morning. What should we start with? And there was no way I could ignore what happened between Dak Prescott and Jerry Jones. You see, the background of this is there have been a few players to sign a few deals this offseason, including just last night, you saw Brandon Ayuk sign with the Niners. No, he was not traded to the Steelers. Signed his contract. You saw CD Lamb sign with the Cowboys. You saw a bunch of players sign. You're still waiting for Jamar Chase. I get it. He's unsigned and holding out. The Niners are moving on to Trent Williams in theory, the left tackle. He's holding out. Dak Prescott is not holding out. Dak Prescott, as you may recall, is in the final year of a 4-year, $160 million deal. He signed that back in 21. He's going to make about 29 large this year. And the question is, what happens next year? And there's been speculation. It's provided hours of gorgeous, luscious content for the likes of ESPN, various other shows. Will he resign? Shouldn't he resign? Could he resign? Well, Jerry Jones, when asked, he's the owner and the GM. I don't think I need to remind you. Go back to this past week where we did a whole skit as Jerry Jones, the owner, and Jerry Jones, the GM. Jerry Jones, the owner, said yesterday, you could easily say, hold on one quick second on that. To be honest with you, skip that part. It goes without saying, skip that part. You could easily say, well, I appreciate that you can easily say it, because when people try to say things in a difficult way to make it hard to understand, and then words get bundled and jobs get bungled, all of a sudden you don't know what's happening from who, where, which, what, when, and how. So you don't need to say you could easily say. Just go ahead and say it, and then we'll say as the listener, that was well said. You could easily say, if you haven't seen it by now, you haven't seen it, Jerry Jones, the owner, said. I'm such a fan of Dak's and appreciate all of the great things that we all know that is there. And I appreciate his work ethic more than anything out here. I can't tell you how proud I am that we've got him this year to start this campaign. That must warm the cockles of Dak's accountants' hearts. He must go to the bank and say, hey, if Jerry can borrow based on the Forbes valuation of his team, can I borrow based on the comments made by my benefactor that he appreciates my work ethic? What's the rate that you'll lend me money based on that? Anything? What do you say? Why do you think the owner would say that If you haven't seen it by now, you haven't seen it. What exactly is Jerry Jones, the owner, waiting for? Is he waiting for his GM to tell him that the market is evolving with quarterbacks? Because as we know, and we've seen over the past decades of our involvement in sports, salaries tend to go down over time. So I absolutely understand that it makes perfect sense for an owner to wait as long as possible. On the other hand, some owners have a view. How about if he proves it? Let's see how his platform year is. Let's see how he plays in the last year of a contract, and then we will take the chance to pay a market value at that time, or we'd be willing to walk away. Or if he gets hurt, then he may not need to get the type of guarantee that he would have gotten prior to the season. These are standard things that owners and GMs, even when they're the same person, go through when you're dealing with an impending free agent. The number one thing you think about, do we want this player back? Number two, if yes to number one, what allocation of our payroll / salary cap payroll can we afford? And I don't mean from an operating income standpoint. I mean within the constraints of the cap, what can we afford? When there's no cap, what percentage of the total payroll do we want this one player to be? And that's if we've decided we want the player back. Next, is there anything that could happen tomorrow that would impact how I feel today? If yes, what? Injury? Lack of performance? There are many times when you've got a player on your team and you want that player back that both injury and lack of performance do not change your view unless it's a career-ending injury. Because any sort of lack of performance gets dismissed as, oh, bad day, bad month, bad season. So it can't be that. What about the other side? If performance outweighs current speculation, MVP year, and I'm talking about personally, record-breaking year, and then team success. Do we make the playoffs? Do we win the conference for the first time in decades? Do we win the Super Bowl? If yes to that, what impact does that have on what his market would be? Do you think that Jerry Jones has not gone through this yet? Of course he has. And then when he says, if you haven't seen it by now, you haven't seen it, then follow up by telling us, are you negotiating with him? Is it your plan to keep him? There is no competitive disadvantage to Dak Prescott going into the season either having been lied to or either having been promised something or having been silent. Either way, I'm talking to my impending free agent and saying, obviously, we don't have a deal done. We have a difference of opinion to your value. Go prove me wrong is what I would say. Because I would always go to, hey, we're going to see what the market does. We're going to see what your performance is. Go make it impossible for me or another team not to make you even richer than you are. Jerry Jones, the GM, then chimed in, which always makes me smile. I wonder whether he put on his sunglasses, he stepped off, and then he stepped back in. Hi, my name's Jerry Jones. I'm the general manager of this Dallas Cowboys team, and I'm a Hall of Fame general manager. And he said, quote, when you look at the situation, you've also got to weigh, okay, what are the consequences of the other side of the coin? So Dak's situation right now for me, from my mirror, has more to do with our situation than it does with the merits of Dak Prescott being the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. What kind of mumbo-jumbo word salad crap is that? I have no idea what he's talking about. And the best part is, neither does Dak. So do you know what Dak did in response? And get ready. Dak said, I stopped honestly listening to things that he says to the media a long time ago. That's the business and the nature of this game that we play. I stopped honestly listening to the things he says to the media a long time ago. Doesn't really hold. Word of the day alert. Word of the day alert. 25. Hold on. I just got caught, Coca. I'm going to tell the audience what happened because it's important. This is not me going crazy. I didn't just have a brain cloud. There are certain people, when they text, I am dealing with during the show, and we're a live show. I've got my 3 kids. If they're texting me during 8 to 8:50 Eastern, there's a problem. And I've said the same thing about Le Batard and Skipper. If you're texting me during 8 to 8:50, then you must really need me. Guess what? Le Batard just texted. He doesn't really need me. And he said something about 2,500. And gosh dang it, I worked it into this segment. Coca, you can edit that out for the 10 a.m. DraftKings Network show, can't you? Dak Prescott said, what Jerry Jones, the GM, says doesn't really hold weight with me. I've never had a player say that. I've had players tweet that they're angry with me or angry with the situation. I've had players tell me directly they're unhappy with things that are going on with the organization. They're unhappy with their own contractual situation. I don't recall that I've had a player impugn my statements publicly in that way. I just don't think I've had it. Now, why would Dak have done that? What's the upside? Oh, I've got it. Because if he does that about the GM, he can do what other players do and go over the head of the GM and the president and go right to the owner and try to get a contract done with the owner. And he can say, I was talking about the GM. Now, if the owner says, hey, I'm not doing your contract, you got to go to the GM, then the player goes to the GM and says, just so you know, I was really talking about the owner. I totally get what he was doing publicly, but I had to answer. And you know what it all means for Dak Prescott's next contract? Nothing. Zero. Jerry Jones has already decided what he's doing with Dak Prescott. The fact that he's delaying, that's his decision. Good luck, Cowboys. You got a real shot. Tom Brady. God, I love him. The whole package. Greatest quarterback of all time. Enough rings that you need a separate safe to have him. Reinvented himself in Tampa. Post-playing career, I think he stopped playing when he was 69 years old. He is involved in many businesses, some messy personal situations. But my favorite thing that Tom Brady has done is when he signed that $300 million deal to be the #1 analyst at Fox. And I had to wait to see that he was not going to do it. Lo and behold, we talk about our wait to sees. We talk about them when we're right or wrong. We got that one wrong because the NFL season is about to start. And Tom Brady, after taking a year off to, what exactly was Tom Brady doing this year? To get roasted and make appearances and travel and do the things that Tom Brady does in order to get Tom Brady Enterprises rolling. He is now ready to start being an analyst. So it is perfect timing that on the eve, semi-eve, of Tom Brady's first game as the #1 analyst for Fox, ESPN.com reported that Tom Brady is going to face severe restrictions in his job with Fox. What does that mean? What is a restriction that like you can't say George Carlin swear words? Well, I think everybody faces those restrictions. That he's not able to do the game remotely. He's got to travel to where the game is. I think everybody has to do that. What exactly do analysts do that he will be restricted from doing, and why? Well, analysts meet with coaches. They go into the locker room. They meet with players. They have production meetings where they talk about what the game production will be like, what both teams are trying to accomplish, all in the preparation to make it look like you know what you're doing, because being an analyst is not easy at all. ESPN.com is reporting that he can't do any of the things that every other analyst has to do to prepare for a game because Tom Brady wants to be an owner of an NFL team. And Tom Brady and the Vegas Raiders have submitted a deal to the NFL for Tom Brady to become a limited partner of the Las Vegas Raiders. The NFL and the owners have not approved this deal. We've done segments about this that you may have listened to. The reason why the NFL has not approved it is that Mark Davis, God bless people who genuflect toward players. Shout out to Bruce Sherman genuflecting toward Derek Jeter. It happens all over the place. People want to be associated with a LeBron James, with a Tom Brady, with a Michael Jordan, with a Derek Jeter, and they become financial illiterates when this feeling of desire to be in the room where athletes happen. So there's a deal that Mark Davis cut for Tom Brady to get a percentage of the Raiders at way below market value. And the NFL other owners said, you know, I got to tell you, no chance, toilet pants. We're not letting you sell part of your team at that number, which means that that number could be extrapolated across your entire team or somebody else's entire team. If he wants to be an owner of the team, no problem. Let him pay market value. You want him to get 10%. We think your team's worth $5 billion. Let him put in $500 million. And then Tom Brady looked at Giselle, and Giselle looked at Tom Brady and said, what are you looking at me for? Tom Brady said, oh, not sure I can do that deal. Let me try to find someone to finance that deal. Hey, A-Rod, you got anybody in your Rolodex? But the humor of it all is that no matter what price is eventually agreed to, and no matter when this deal ever gets approved, if it does, the reality is, according to the AP, trying to trump ESPN, saying it's not just that he'll face restrictions if and when he's approved. The AP said he's facing those restrictions right now while the deal is being considered. That means from the get-go, Tom Brady cannot do his job. What do you think about that? Do you think that if you were starting a job, let's talk about a job, a particular job. Let's just say that your job was that you needed to bring a calculator to your job. Just pretend whatever job that is. It could be on your phone. It could be an HP 12C, whatever it could be. I just went deep into the bowels of my brain. Maybe it's an Apple IIc was the first computer I had in college, and maybe it's the HP. It's the computer. It's the calculator that I used in. It did all these complex math equations. I used it on Wall Street. I used it in college in calculus. Let's pretend that I don't know what that is, but you need that calculator to do your job, and you show up to your job first day, and they say, "Hey, where's your calculator?" And you say, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to do it in my head. I'm not allowed to bring this calculator. I have been forbidden." And the person who hired you said, well, it's going to take you way longer and you're going to make more mistakes. Why is it that you're not going to have what everybody else has, including our competitors, including your coworkers? Why is it that you're the one who's not going to use this fantastic calculator? Well, I'm not allowed to. How does that work? Do you know what happens? Bye-bye. You are fired. You go into a job day one with your inability to use all of the arrows inside the broadcasting quiver. See you later. But wait, my name is Tom Brady. It doesn't matter if I prepare. It doesn't matter if I can't go into a production meeting. It doesn't matter. Here's why. It doesn't matter if I can't meet with coaches, because I'm Tom Brady. Well, I ask you as an audience, how long you care that you are listening to Tom Brady. Let me give you an example of another really good quarterback. He used to play for the Cowboys. His name is Troy Aikman. Do you know how hard Troy Aikman works to be the analyst that he is? Did he need to? Do you know how hard Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal work to be the pregame host that they are? And you can give me all your load of crap. All they do is play golf and laugh and make commercials. They have to be up to date on the league, on players who were born after they retired practically. Actually, that may be true. That'd be a good one to check. That's a hell of a stat of the day. Is Charles Barkley the analyst in the NBA for players who were born after he retired? I think the answer's got to be yes, Coca. When did Charles Barkley retire? Tom Brady has to be able to do his preparation. So how does this end, would you say? Well, as Judi Dench said, and as I like to say, it probably ends with tears and a journey. The tears are Tom Brady having to renegotiate his Fox deal, though part of the Fox deal was to make corporate appearances on behalf of Fox. Hello, Murdoch family. I'm Tom Brady. Would you like me to sign your ball? There is very little chance that Tom Brady stays as the number one analyst for Fox, having nothing to do with him owning part of the Raiders, having nothing to do with the fact that he may or may not be good because we really don't know yet. The fact of the matter is that he's going to realize that he can't prepare the way he needs to prepare, and he's going to get himself embarrassed by the fact that he stinks. Because you don't just open your eyes and say, oh, hey, look at Tony Romo. He was predicting plays before it even started. Hey, how about $17 million a year? Hey, now he stinks, does he? I don't think so. But Tony Romo learned you got to work your tuchus off. Think Tommy Boy wants to do that? He's going to have to choose. And he will choose. And what do you think Tom Brady will choose? Being the owner, however limited, of the Las Vegas Raiders and not having to be away from kids or life or whatever he wants to do for so many weekends of the year. What is it? 18, 17 plus playoffs? 19, 20, 21. We're getting close to 26. Holy crikeys, that's half the year. Now, normal people working half the year, not too shabby. Dahl, Elvis, Costello. However, for Tom Brady, it's going to be way more of a grind, private planes notwithstanding, than you can ever imagine. So, I am re-upping a wait to see. Wait to see when we tell you something's going to happen. If it does, great. If it doesn't, fine. I'm re-upping it right now. Well, I'm changing a little teeny tiny bit. Tom Brady will not be the number one Fox analyst when next football season starts. Wait to see. Book that one, Coca. Well, first play music and then book it.
You know what I want? I want to talk to Samson.
So you want to talk to Samson. Go ahead this weekend, if you're so inclined during this Labor Day weekend, watch a movie called Half Baked. Inside Half Baked, there will be a character named Samson. It's way better to engage with Samson when you are 70, 69 baked. But if you only get to 31, that's okay too. And if you're the type who chooses 0, I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to judge. Get into my X at David P. Samson. Instagram. Go to davidsamsonpodcast.com. Ask me a question. You never know. It may make the show. Hi, David. Love the show. Hell yeah. It's always a good start to a question. With so much private equity talk, yes, there was talk on this show. This is me talking now. And there was talk on the Sporting Class, which got released yesterday as part of Pablo Torre Finds Out, but it's really the Sporting Class. Is it the Sporting Class with Pablo Torre Finds Out? I think we're going to have a few discussions. With so much private equity talk, I was wondering, how does something like Fenway Sports Group, let me try to do that better on a Friday. I was wondering, how does something like Fenway Sports Group differ from a group like Blackstone or Carlyle? Why can Fenway own the Pittsburgh Penguins, but other private equity firms are limited to 30% in the NHL? Thanks. Well, I appreciate your question. And this comes up often. Confusion about entities. Before I answer and explain that Fenway Sports Group is a holding company and not a private equity firm, I want to bring, and it would be amazing if I had thought of this prior to the show, but I'm going to describe it to you and you're going to dig it. When you buy something complicated like a business or a sports team, you rarely sign the documents David Samson on behalf of David Samson. Generally, you create companies, limited liability companies. You create partnerships. You create layers. This thing owns that. That thing owns this. This thing owns the franchise. But that thing also owns this thing, which owns that thing, which owns the TV deal. But don't forget, we've got that thing that owns this thing. This thing owns the other thing. And inside that are other assets of the partnership. The reason why flow charts of ownership of what you would consider to be one thing, like the Boston Red Sox, or like the Miami Marlins, or like the Montreal Expos, two examples that I'll give you, but I've seen the flow charts to every team, because when you approve an ownership sale or a new owner into the league in baseball and every sport, you get a document. Inside the document is the actual flow chart. You've seen a flow chart. Even those of you who haven't gone to 22nd grade, you've seen it. There's boxes and then dotted lines and then straight lines, diagonal lines, and other boxes. Minimum 10 boxes per page. The Miami Marlins had so many entities that I would keep track in my black bag briefcase. This entity has this entity has that, this entity is controlled by this, controlled by that, and owned by him. Very normal. Why? Because if you get hit in the head with a foul ball, I don't want you to get a Picasso. For those of you who get that joke, you can get that joke, but it's the same concept, which is very often people get frustrated in the real world when they're trying to sue an entity, and the entity said, I got to tell you, I don't have any assets. You can sue me and win for slipping on ketchup on the concourse, but I got to tell you, the stadium operating company that operates Marlins Park, it has a total value of like $2.69. Good luck. And you may find that to be the pinnacle of corporate greed, espionage, and lascivious prurient behavior. And I would say it's just business. Wait, the show's not over. Doesn't mean we're not going to settle and give you a pittance if you slip on ketchup, or maybe give you a free ice cream cone. It just means that we're protected from, we meaning businesses, get protected. The company at the top, the very top, sometimes it's a person. Sometimes it is a company that the person owns 100% of. Sometimes it's a company that the person only owns a percentage of. The top of the Red Sox and the Penguins and Nesson is a company called Fenway Sports Group. That is a private company. You can't just buy shares of stock in it. It's got a whole bunch of owners, the largest of whom is John Henry, the second largest of whom is Tom Werner, and somewhere in there is LeBron James and Maverick Carter, somewhere right below many other names that you've never heard of. Sam Kennedy, one of the great team presidents, who now is the Fenway Sports Group CEO, he's in that list too. You can find that list. You don't have to be an internet sleuth to find it. They all own, when they put it all together, 100% of Fenway Sports Group. Fenway Sports Group then invests in different things. You can invest in the Penguins. You can invest in the Red Sox. You can invest in Liverpool. You can invest in racing. You can invest in anything you want. It will all be separate flowcharts, all that find its way up to Fenway Sports Group. The person leading Fenway Sports Group is the person leading all of those different teams, the control person, if you will. Fenway Sports Group is not the control person of the Boston Red Sox. John Henry is. The company that in theory owned the Miami Marlins was not the control person of the Marlins. It was a company, and the owner of that company was Jeffrey Loria, also the control person of the Miami Marlins. So you go through this corporate structure, and there is nothing in the structure that is in any way similar to what a private equity firm is, which is a pool of money that is put together for the purpose of finding different things to invest in. You're going to say, God, that sounds so similar. Didn't everyone put money into Fenway Sports Group in order to find stuff to invest in? And then they chose to invest in the Penguins and the Red Sox? And the answer is no. Fenway Sports Group is simply the holding company in which the Red Sox were, and then they expanded what the owners of the Red Sox would buy. It then became the Penguins, and then it became Liverpool. They went out to the market and borrowed money to say, hey, why don't you put money in with me and I will be the control person of this asset or that asset? Redbird Capital put money to Fenway Sports Group. Redbird Capital, which is also, ironically, one of the private equity firms that's allowed to now invest in the NFL. Redbird Capital Partners, as a private equity firm, when they decide that they want to buy a piece of the Bears or the Cowboys or whatever else, they will not be the control piece. It will not be their name at the top of the flowchart under any scenario. Fenway Sports Group is the top of the flowchart, a holding company. That's the difference. Oh, I can't wait. Do we have to take a break? I want to get right to this movie review. All right, we'll take a break. We're going to review a movie, and then we're going to talk a little Mark Cuban, because he said something yesterday that made me laugh very hard, and I think you'll enjoy it. So let's take a break. Welcome back to Nothing Personal, here on Beth's birthday, August 30th, 2024. It is a Friday. As a reminder, there will be no show Monday. It's Labor Day, which I always found to be an oxymoron. You don't work on Labor Day. Strange. I'd love to do a show, but we'll be back on Tuesday, September blank. That's me just absolutely having no recollection of what the day would be. Friday's the 30th, Saturday's the 31st. That means Sunday's the 1st, Monday's the 2nd, Tuesday the 3rd. Listen, that's a steel trap you're looking at and listening to right now. I watched yesterday at a very bizarre hour. It was one of those nights, folks. I appreciate, by the way, Coca, how many people get to me at davidsamsonpodcast.com or on Twitter at David P. Samson about my sleep. I agree with you that things have to change. And like with many things, that change starts tomorrow. Because tomorrow the sun will rise, and who knows what the tide could bring. I watched Adam Sandler Love You on Netflix. At approximately 8:50 a.m., if you can, or 10:50, 11 a.m. if you're watching this on DraftKings Network, I would like you to subscribe to Netflix immediately to watch Adam Sandler's Love You. It doesn't matter if you don't know who Adam Sandler is, though you should. It doesn't matter if you've never seen him do stand-up comedy, which I assume you should. It doesn't matter if you've never seen Saturday Night Live, but I assume you have. What matters is, do you want 87 minutes of entertainment? It's up to you. I'd like to go through some of Adam Sandler's bits from Adam Sandler Love You. He plays the guitar. Spoiler alert, he doesn't need Elvis as part of the show. He tells you some stories. His humor is childish, sex-related, poopy-related, and man, is it funny. If you want to laugh, watch Adam Sandler Love You, and when it's done, just love him. Then, because he always says love you to the audience, that's his thing. I love you guys. I love you. I love you. I love you. I like throwing that word around. I love you, man. It's a good movie. I don't say I love you often, but when I say it, I mean it. Not saying it's going to last forever. I'm just saying at that moment, like right at that very moment, it's love. I don't love Mark Cuban. I admit that. I've never broken bread with him. I have no idea if he's a good husband or father. He's a good businessman. Knows how to diversify his portfolio. Wasn't going to live his whole life with just a bunch of Yahoo stock. Mark Cuban was the owner of the Mavericks for a long time and sold at a price that was unconscionably low for those on the outside. And for him, he said, ooh, this is about as good as it's going to get for this team. Mark Cuban wanted to own a baseball team for as long as I can remember. For as many ownership meetings that I've been in, for a year, for 18 years. I'm going to say that's 72. How am I doing? Hold on. Let me get my calculator to do my job. 18. Carry the 1, and then move that to the other side. 72. Mark Cuban was told pretty directly that he doesn't have the votes to buy a team. If he wants to bid on a team, that's fine, but he's not going to get approved because Bud Selig and then later other owners and Rob Manfred did not want such a shite disturber in their ranks. Little did they know that they would have plenty of those types of disturbers once the valuations got higher, because what you may have learned from Nothing Personal, there's a price on everything. Man, I can't stand you, Steve Cohn. I can't stand what you stand for, but thank you so much for giving Fred Wilpon a couple bill for a team that you know stinks and loses money hand over fist. We love you, Steve. You've got this, man. You can do it. Just try not to do the stuff that you were doing with your company. Can you just try not to do that anymore? But if you do, you do. We're not going to say anything. You're approved. Cuban still wouldn't get approved. He did something strange the other day when he was asked about his attempt to buy the Pirates in 2006, the possibility of buying the Pirates in 2006. I remember it clear as day. I cannot remember yesterday's day, but I remember the owners' meetings talking about Mark Cuban, both in the full owners' meeting as well as on the committee side, as well as at the dinner where there's only whisperings and gossip. His view of the Pittsburgh Pirates is the following, and I'm quoting: if someone offered you a job that paid $25 million or more per year to stand in Market Square, that means, like the Scarlet Letter, like standing in the middle, the Salem style, standing in Market Square, and let the entire city of Pittsburgh yell at you, would you take that job? That job is owning the Pirates. Why would they sell? In Pittsburgh, everyone wants Bob Nutting to sell. Their assumption is if you've got a rich person owning the team, that they would sign a bunch of players and not have a payroll where they have it. Of course, everyone who has that view has no idea what they're talking about. There's plenty of rich owners who don't pour money into payroll over what the operation can afford because it doesn't make sense. CENTS or SCNSE. But don't worry, Pittsburgh. Some amazing billionaire will come in there, and all of a sudden the Pirates will be the Padres. They're going to act like the Dodgers and then realize, oh my God, I'm bleeding money. This is stupid. And we stink. Think Steve Cohn is going to keep doing what he's doing? No chance. Why do you think he wants a casino and to get rid of the chop shops? He's got to find a way to justify the ridiculousness of the way he's operating the Mets. So would someone come in, take over the Pirates, and say, oh, Paul Skeens, I'm going to give you Dak Prescott money? Maybe. We're never going to let a player go again. No. But here's the weird part about Mark Cuban and how absolutely uninformed he is. Do you think that Bob Nutting, the owner of the Pirates, he goes into the middle of town in Pittsburgh and he stands there and he puts a sign on his body. He says, hi, my name is Bob Nutting. Anything you'd like to say to me? Puts a little cloud nose on, puts the little orange hair, the little skull cap, and says, you want to throw any tomatoes or tomatoes? People don't do that. Do you know what happens when Bob Nutting goes to a store and goes to a restaurant? People want his autograph. They take his picture. I know this from experience. All of the hate that used to be directed at the job I used to do, the number of times that someone would confront me with boo, hiss, you stink, I can count it on one finger even after a lawn accident. Darn it, Coca. Edit that out. 12, 29, 69. I can count it on one hand even after a lawn accident. Get it? You lose fingers. Doesn't happen too often. I don't know why Mark Cuban keeps saying this. I really don't. And by the way, the worst part about what Cuban said is, do you think the Pirates make $25 million a year? I'll bet you $1, even your last dollar, that the Pittsburgh Pirates, the last time they made $25 million of cash that got put into Bob Nutting's account, will be the first time. Nothing personal pick of the day. We had the Astros over the Royals. It's a wiener. We are 113 and 117. Let's talk about something that happened last night. Someone had asked me, Coco, when are you going to start making some U.S. Open picks? I have got a pick. I don't know. I mean, this is extremely risky, but it's an extreme underdog, and I think that you should all do it. There's a match that's happening today. It's a Dutchman named Botek van de Schanschulp against Carlos Alcaraz. There's something about Alcaraz. Now, he's favored to win the tournament, but there's something about this Dutchman who's very lowly ranked. I don't think he's ever made it past the quarterfinals. I've got a feeling, that tonight's going to be a bad night for Alcaraz. I don't want to make that my official pick of the day. I just said you're asking for a US Open pick, and I would take the dog in the Alcaraz Van de Schanschulp match. In terms of baseball or football, let's talk about some weekend picks. Big 4-game series started last night between the Braves and the Phillies. If you are a fan of Steve Cohen and you love hedge funds, or you're a fan of Citi Field and love chop shops, you are rooting HARD for the Phillies because you know you're not trying to catch the Phillies to win the division if you're the Mets. You're trying to catch the Braves to win the wild card. So you need the Braves to lose. Well, last night it happened. The Phillies, who have been a mediocre team since the All-Star break, they found a way to come back and beat the Braves, who have been HOTT. We're looking at the game tonight. It's Ronaldo Lopez. Do you know that name? Chris Sale is likely the best pitcher on the Braves. Max Fried is in that rotation. Spencer Strider is not in that rotation. Charlie Morton is in that rotation. If I had to choose a Game 2 starter right now, Max Fried. If I had to choose a Game 3 starter for the Bravos, I would take Lopez. And Lopez is a dog against the Phillies. The Braves are 5 back of the Phillies. The Braves think if they sweep the series, and I know the mentality, I've gone through this before, we're 5 back going into a 4-game series. We're heading into September. This is brilliant. All we have to do is sweep. We're 1 back. We've got the entire month to make up 1 game. We're going to win the division and keep our streak alive in the National League East. Of course, the Phillies are saying, hey, man, just split this series, and we're still 5 back with 4 games taken off the slate. We're that much closer to clinching the division. And then the Braves say in response, well, wait a minute. All we have to do is win 3 out of 4. We make up 2 games. We're 3 back. It's nothing, honey. Well, the majority of 4-game series end up a split. We're taking the Braves over the Phillies in Game 2 of the series, and we're getting plus 114. Booyah! What about Saturday? College football, baby. Did you watch Colorado? I couldn't help it. I turned it on for a few secs. Just that. Just, you know why? It's so funny. If you could only get inside my brain, which I let you do for 50 minutes a day, and trust me, that's enough. I wanted to be able to say with a straight face, here I go. Last night, I took some time to watch the Colorado Buffaloes play, and my reaction to the Buffaloes was they could use Connor Stallions. I just have always wanted to say that. Saturday, there is a game I'm definitely going to watch, and it's between Florida and Miami. You know my past in Miami. I love the Hurricanes. I'm not saying I don't love the Gators. I'm just saying I don't love the Gators. I'm not saying I don't know a ton of people who I love who are Gators, because I do. But I'm pretty loyal to Donna Shalala. Shouldn't I be? Yeah, you probably don't know what that means. Look it up. Donna Shalala. Florida's plus 2.5 against Miami. Here's the thing about Mario Cristobal. He's coaching for his coaching life. Everyone is so excited about the hurricane season. I did not get this opinion from Mike Ryan, who, as you know, is the #1 hurricane fan, booster involved guy. I don't even want to know what happens if the Hurricanes lose this game because it will be despondency beyond repair. It is a mortal lock that the Hurricanes win this game on Saturday. The nothing personal pick of the day, Gators plus 2.5. We got the Braves on Friday, the Gators on Saturday. Do you know what's not happening on Sunday? Now, you may be having a barbecue. You may be doing a whole bunch of stuff on Sunday. Do you know what's not going to happen? Glen Davis is not going to prison. Well, that came out of nowhere. No, it didn't. Do you remember Glen Davis? He was a player. You probably watched him. He probably made, $30 million in his career. He's the guy who got convicted and then sentenced for the fraud that he actually did commit fraud. Remember, he cheated the NBA players' health and benefit welfare plan. He stole like $5 million. He's the same guy who was on the Celtics when they won the title in 2008. He's the guy who was defrauding the insurance plan. Insurance, fraud, prison. For some reason, people do not put those three words together, and they should. So he's about to go to prison to start his 40-month prison sentence. And his judge says, "Excuse me, Your Honor, would you mind if my client, Glen Davis, does not report to prison right now? We'd really like you to postpone when he has to report to serve the sentence that you've already given him until late in October." And the reason is that he's in the middle of doing a documentary, and it would be really nice if he could finish the documentary. And the judge responded, and I don't want to impugn judges in general. It's very hard to be a judge. I know and love a few judges myself. This judge said, "You got it, baby. You owe a bunch of people a bunch of money, and it seems like that you want to stay out of prison to finish some documentary, and you told me that you can make 80 grand from doing this documentary. Good luck with that. And we're going to give you a chance because you owe so much restitution." The funny part is, I think he'd make more than 80 grand by being in prison. But I digress. Why the judge exactly did this is beyond me. Because what happens to the next criminal who's going to prison on Tuesday and says, "Excuse me, I owe people money and I work making $14 at Home Depot. Would you mind if I worked another week or two? I promise you I won't have fun. I promise you I'll pretend I'm in prison. And I promise you that I will go to prison in a month, but I'd like to work for one more month at $14 an hour. Is that good? See you later." So now we've got judges saying, hey, documentaries, that's good for restitution. Spoken as someone who obviously doesn't know anything about the documentary business. Hourly jobs, not good. I'm about to start a business. It's going to be such a good business. Would you mind if I just tried a little bit harder? Because if it hits, oh, baby, I'm going to be paying restitution left, right, and center. If I'm on the other side of this, I am showing his interview, Glen Davis's interview from TMZ in July. And I'm quoting his interview. I feel like I'm going to have good quality time in there talking about prison. Learn things, meet new people. It's going to be all right. Shout out to the ladies out there, he said to TMZ. Write me. I'll be in there getting fine as hell. When I get out, call me Big Baby Jailbait. He actually said that. You know what the judge should have done? Should have said, you know what? Big Baby Jailbait, you start right now. Can you believe someone? Do we have a good system? If someone's saying that, I can't get 21 square anywhere else, might as well go to prison. I'm a recidivist. I have an idea. Why don't we make it so Glen Davis has to serve prison time and that the money he makes, whatever it is that he's doing in prison, where people do make money in prison, how about if all that money goes to restitution and you don't have to think about whether or not going to be done with a documentary on the Celtics or whatever else that Glen Davis is involved in? Obviously, you can tell my frustration. What's good for the goose doesn't seem to be good for the gander. Talk about player empowerment over the penal system? Not anymore. Well, good luck, Glenn. I hope you get the documentary made. I'll be watching as part of a contributor to your restitution to the people you stole money from, which is why you're going to prison. Side note, I wouldn't put you in the prison I was supposed to put you in because you think it's going to be so great. Why? It's just business. We'll be back Tuesday. Have a great, safe weekend. This is nothing personal.